coming right there.
All right, hey guys, today I want to talk about the new M-17, M-18 pistol. I say new, I know it's been out for a couple years now, but it took me a while to get my first 3,000 rounds through this thing. Ammo's expensive, right? But this is the new pistol for the US military to replace the old Beretta. Now it is based on the SIG P320 series, and it's a decent pistol, it is. Now, why did the US military need a new pistol? Well, because the old M9 Beretta, this puppy, it's got a lot of downfalls to it. It really does. Number one, it's heavy as hell. A full metal pistol. It does not have a light rail. You've heard me say it before. Every combat gun should have a light on it. The sights on it are, what's a polite way to say it? They suck. I mean, they are incredibly terrible, right? As though tritium was never invented. Right, crappy sights. Now, for the military's defense, they're like, well, this is a sidearm. It's not for combat troops. I beg to differ. I really do. Right, it's got an exposed hammer, and all pistols used to have that. I got that, but I've seen so many guns jam from all the dirt getting into that exposed hammer. Let's take that one step further. The entire barrel is exposed on the top of the slide here. So you're just allowing all this dirt, grime, mud, snow, everything to get down around this thing. And then the moment of truth, when you have to use that pistol in a combat situation, bang, and then immediate jam. It's just not a good design. Right. Also, the slides are weak. This is the pistol that I ran through our hostage rescue school at Range 37 called SAFARTEC. You want to know what the acronym stands for, go look it up online. But basically, each student shoots about 63,000 rounds per student. Now, most of that's with your rifle and your UTM rounds and your frangible ammo and stuff like that. But we put a lot of rounds through our Beretta. We had what they call brigadier slides. So many of these slides would break. They'd crack right here where the barrel locking lugs were, that for the soft community, they replaced it with the heavy duty aftermarket brigadier slides. These are the military guns. And I still broke my brigadier slide. It still cracked right next to the locking blocks. It's just so, it's 1970s technology. And honestly, if the State Department wasn't involved in the award of the contract for DOD, my personal belief, and pretty well everybody else's, it would have gone to a different company, right? So fast forward, 80s, 90s, you start getting 2000s, we start getting the global war on terror, and everybody said, look, it's time. We've got to move on to something better. By then, almost all soft units were exclusively running Glocks, and why? Because a Glock is 1980s technology, a little bit better than the old 70s stuff. So it was time for don't get me wrong, this is still just like the 1911, part of US military history. And I will always be a fan of the Beretta for back then. Let's fast forward, right? You start coming back forward in the Army, they held their little competition. Glock actually entered a pistol that had an external safety on it, a couple other pistols involved in it. But what the military ended up going with is the M17/M18. This is an M18. It has a slightly shorter handle, slightly shorter barrel. This is the compact version for like your detectives or your special ops guys to carry, right? But first, right off the bat, let me say this pistol is made for the military. All right, it is not made for civilians that just want to EDC this thing. Compare it to my Glock, right, my old trusted Glock that I run all the time. The ergonomics on this SIG are awesome. They are awesome. It fits in not just my hand, but basically everybody's hand better than a Glock does. You notice it comes with a light rail. I've got my Surefire X300 Vampire on here. It's got my IR and white light head on it. Okay, big flashlight, doesn't matter. It fits the pistol just fine. The M-17, the barrel comes out a little better. Does not matter. The short barrel does not damage this light at all. It doesn't. We have to have a light rail on our guns. And how we used to do it with the Beretta was we had to have that light rail attached to the trigger guard. Not a good design. It just wasn't. Fast forward, all modern firearms, all modern pistols, they now come with light rails. They just do. So kudos for that. Now it's got a ambi-slide locking lever. So in other words, either side I can push up, I can lock that slide to the rear. Okay, now your Gen 5 Glocks have that, your Smith & Wessons, everybody else has got that. Okay, so that's there, that's modern day. It's got a decent trigger in it, right? I was surprised at how nice this trigger is, right? It's nice and smooth trigger. Can you get aftermarket triggers for it? Yes. Does SIG offer different levels of triggers for it? Sure. Okay, you can get trigger jobs for it just like every other pistol that's out there. It already comes with decent sights on the military version. Tritium inserts, big bright dot up front. Okay, decent stuff. But one thing that I really liked about it was it comes already cut for an optic. So in other words, you don't have to get a aftermarket slide. That was a requirement by the military contract. Okay, now, one thing I will bash SIG about was how they cut this slide. Basically, you've got to use their, their optic pretty well. Now, what I mean by that is, you see I am running the Holosun 509 that has the Vulcan reticle in it. I love the Vulcan reticle. I honestly believe because everybody's number one complaint with a pistol is not being able to find the dot. The Vulcan reticle with the large outer circle allows you to find that dot. To me, they should do away with the whole patent thing, and everyone should be allowed to put the Vulcan reticle into the RMRs, into the ACROs from Aimpoint, everything, because we have guys showing up to classes, military, that are buying their own 509s with the Vulcan reticle in it. They're putting it on their guns. That's what I put on here. Now, for me to put this on this M18, it would not fit this pistol. SIG doesn't have a part that will allow you to do it. I had to find a aftermarket base plate in order to mount this optic. Not that big a deal. Not that big a deal at all, right? Now, here's the thing that freaks people out about this is external safety. Well, Carl, your Glock doesn't have an external safety. Why would we want an external safety on a pistol? Again, remember, it is made for the military, all right? Primarily, these pistols, they go to your support personnel, and all they're gonna do with it is they're gonna have it on their side. They're gonna go to the chow hall with it. All right, but understand these pistols are also the sidearm of an operator. All right, so if my rifle shits the bed, this is what I'm gonna have. All right, now I want you to think about how we run a rifle in combat. All right, run a rifle, that rifle stays on safe until I'm ready to shoot. And the reason for that, if I come into that room and is it a threat? Is it not a threat? Let's say the target is a threat, but it's not a threat that warrants deadly force. Rather than rotating the selector lever and keyhole in his melon, instead the gun stays on safe, and we will muzzle thump him, engage him, physically put him down on the ground. All right. Now, what about when I don't have my rifle with me? I come in, and all I have in my hands is this pistol. All right. If all I have in my hand is this pistol and it doesn't have a safety on it, I start wrestling, even with my finger outside the trigger well, the chance is there for that bad guy to get his finger in there. Now us wrestling, that firearm could go off. So for me personally, I believe that this is a great requirement that the US military had, adding a safety to it. All right, I'm gonna get deeper into that and how it changes your manual arms, but before I do, let's take a quick break so YouTube can slap you right in the face with a commercial. I hope you guys enjoyed that commercial as much as I did. Now, when we left, we were talking about this external safety, all right? And understand running a firearm with an external safety on it, this is gonna change our manual of arms a little bit, all right? What I mean by that is, because now I have a safety that I have to manipulate, all right? And we did this with the old 1911s back in the day. If you're running a 1911, as you pressed it out on the target, part of that presentation was it came off of safe, you engaged the targets, and as you did that follow through, you immediately placed it back on safe, scan are there any other targets. If there's another target, as you're pressing it back out, put it back on the fire, you shoot again. And this is for all those firearms, not just that single action 1911. What I mean by that is even the SEALs with their P226, again, it has the exposed hammer, but unlike the 1911, it is double action like the Beretta. So as I go to press it out, all right, with that hammer forward, round in the chamber, I press it out, that first trigger pull, bang, but then as the gun goes off, after that, that hammer stays cocked, and now that trigger pull is insanely light. That gives you that faster, more accurate follow-up shots, all right? So once you're done shooting, did I hit, did I get the desired effect? If you did, you're now gonna look for more threats. When you do that, you break it down into your workspace, you search for other targets, all right? But as you're breaking it into your workspace, what they're doing is they're actually hitting this decock lever right here. And I engage the target, and then part of my double action follow through is as I bring it back in, I hit that decock lever, and that places it back on double action. I check, do whatever. If I go back to my holster, I go back to my holster. But if I find another threat, or if I have to keep moving with the pistol in my hands, it's decocked, all right? Same thing with the Beretta. With the Beretta, what we would do, all right, now it has a decocking lever, all right? But that decocking lever can also be used as a safety. So it is a dual purpose switch, decock and safety. So after we shot, bang, gun goes off, it's now on single action. That second shot is very, very smooth, very, very light trigger because the hammer is cocked. Very, very light trigger. All right. Now, if I was to just run around with this Beretta clearing the rest of the shoot house or wherever I was, because this was the only firearm I had, remember a lot of people in the military, if they don't carry a rifle, they all get assigned pistols. While I was moving with this thing, if I come around a corner and there's a guy there, same size, maybe bigger than me, understand that if he does not warrant deadly force, I now have to go hands-on with this guy. And now I'm wrestling with a firearm that has got a cocked hammer, all right? So the advantage of the Beretta is when I'm done shooting, bang, 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 I shoot, I immediately, as I'm finishing my follow through, I can place it back on safe, and now I'm ready to move. Part of my manual of arms is as I press it out, my thumb is staying anchored on that safety. As I press it out, my thumb sweeps the safety and I go right back to my normal grip, right? So the manual of arms for a Beretta is safety on and off after you're done each engagement, which is the same as my manual of arms for my rifle, is it not? Off safe, engage. When I'm done the engagement, back on safe, I'm ready to move again. With that rifle, it's the same thing with the Beretta. It's the same thing with the SIG 226 with the decocking lever. It's the same as the 1911 with the external safety. If we're gonna be moving on the battlefield, remember, I'm not talking sitting on a flat range, shooting pieces of paper and pieces of steel that are not shooting back at you. You're gonna be using non-lethal force just as often as you're using lethal force, right? So again, the advantage with that manual of arms for the M17 M18 is the firearm stays on safe until you are ready to shoot. So presentation of the firearm stays the same. I'm gonna press check, make sure one more time it's clear. Whether I'm starting with my rifle or whether I'm just starting with the pistol itself, my presentation is I clear that holster, gun stays on safe. Once it's pointed down range, gun stays on safe so I don't sweep my hand. Once I start to marry my grip together and I'm pressing that firearm out, that's when that thumb will take the firearm off of safe if the target to my front warrants deadly force. Press it out, engage. When I'm done, my manual arms for the M17 M18 is as I bring it back into my workspace, my thumb is putting it back onto safe. Fire safe, fire safe, fire safe. Easy to do. So my reason for saying that is if you were a Glock guy, if you're a SIG 226 guy, it's going to take you a little while to relearn that muscle memory. All right, for changing to this. And it's important. They put it there the same reason as they did on the 1911. You understand there's a time in our nation's history where hostage rescue units actually took these safeties off of their 1911s, all right, to make their draw faster. But you notice they also put those safeties back on the guns. Why? Well, because Americans got shot in training in the shoot houses at the range. The safety is there for a reason. All right, so anyways, I love it. I'm not bitching about them having the safety on it at all, not at all. All right, so getting back to the M17 M18, okay, so it's a decent design, but is it reliable? Because there's been lots of complaints online that, you know, the gun goes off when it's in your holster, the gun, I'm not bashing everybody else that's made complaints. My personal experience, me running and gunning and doing all the shooting around barricades and vehicles and all the shooting and moving that we do, guys, I've never had any issues with this at all. We've shot tons of different kinds of ammo. Basically everything I pour through this thing, from G9 external hollow points to cheap, crappy Remington UMC 9mm. The only times we've ever had any issues at all was bad primers, again, on crappy Remington UMC. All right, so great, it's reliable, very reliable. Accuracy, gotta have accuracy. You know, accuracy is kind of a pet peeve of mine. If you've been in any of our classes, we usually wrap up a class at the end of the day with a drill that we call Final 5. We'll start at like 30 and then we'll go to 40, we'll go to 50. I'm gonna line it up on the target and then I'm gonna just apply pressure. 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. You get 5 rounds. If you can hit the 10-inch pie plate, then you get to go back to the next yard line and so forth, so forth. I usually will do it support hand at one line, strong hand at the other to swap it back and forth because I'm big on practicing shooting one-handed. I have a young lady, she comes and shoots with us on weekends. She runs her M18 and she consistently gets back to 100 meters like every Sunday. At 100 meters, she is hitting that 10-inch head plate. There are days that she'll go back to 110, 120, 130 with this M18, not the longer barreled M17. She's running the same optic, with the Vulcan reticle in it. It's a, guys, accurate pistol. All right, in conclusion, the SIG M17 or the M18, it's a big step over the old Beretta M9, guys. Really a big step. All right, my only gripe that I've ever had with the Glock for a combat pistol is I wanted an external safety on it. They did this, SIG listens, and they have the external safety on this gun. My personal opinion, US military, they've got a good gun here in the SIG M18 and the M17. That's all I got. I know some of my comments are gonna piss some of you off. I appreciate the conversations. Leave the comments below. You know I read them all. Y'all take care and shoot straight. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you don't miss out on anything.